Hey everybody, Old Guy Gamer here. We're going to be in the Flight Design CTSL. I like this plane. It's probably the third plane that I've given a fair shot for our tourism of these little towns that we're doing. Let's go fly it. I'll talk about why we like it. Let's get rid of that. We are taking off from Seligman Airport in Seligman, Arizona. There's an interesting little thing here. Actually, I shouldn't have gotten rid of that map before I looked at it closer. Okay, we're looking southwest. So, Seligman is just out there to the left of us. The airport is kind of on the northwest side of the town, so looking southeast there, you see the town of Seligman, Arizona. We're going to be taking off. We're going to talk about the Cars movie. The Cars movie by Pixar and Disney. And then we're going to head west along Route 66. So just at the end of this runway is Route 66 that goes west towards the mountains and towards the Hualapai Indian Reservation. So we'll talk about that when we get in the air. Let's take off. Seligman is an area where Route 66 and I-40, Interstate 40, are pretty close together. So you'll see a little bridge right there that goes over railroad tracks and Route 66. We're flying over Route 66 right now. So we're going to talk about that because the Cars movie, I think this little intersection right here is the inspiration for a scene in the Cars movie. And we'll talk about the Cars settings a little bit more when we're looking at Peach Springs, Arizona a little bit later in the video. But for right now, I think this area is the inspiration for the scene where Mac falls asleep on the interstate while they're driving to California early in the movie. You remember that Mac is falling, he's getting drowsy, and then the tuner cars race up alongside him and they play some music to make him go to sleep, and lightning falls out the back. Well, when they're heading west, you know, they're going this way. Mac continues going west. He doesn't realize lightning is falling out the back, and then lightning sees a truck going on the you can't really see the road behind us. There it is, just coming into view at the left side of the window there. So lightning runs up this exit ramp because he sees a truck in the distance. So he thinks it's Mac, so he races up this exit ramp, chases the truck. And if you remember, while he's trying to catch up to the truck, he has a race with the train. There's a railroad crossing, and the train is blaring its horn, and lightning takes off and beats the train barely across the crossing. That's this crossing right here. If my thinking is correct, that this is the inspiration for that scene, this crossing is where he had that interaction with the train coming left to right, and he just barely beat it. And then when he caught up to the truck, he came to a T intersection, a three-way T intersection, and the truck stops and lightning races up alongside him, and he's like, Mac! And the truck says, I ain't no Mac, I'm a Peterbilt. And then the Peterbilt turns right and goes along this road on Route 66 back towards Seligman. Well, Lightning McQueen gets a little confused and he takes off west on Route 66, thinking he's headed back to the interstate. Well, he misses the interstate, obviously. And from this point, the interstate and Route 66 really get separated for quite a bit of distance, and I-40 makes a beeline straight west basically, and Route 66 kind of takes a long swooping route through the hills. So I think that's the intersection they used. That's exit 121 off of I-40 in Arizona, and I did the Google Street View, and it does say exit 121 is the exit for Seligman and Peach Springs. So the reason I wanted to talk about Peach Springs is the last video I did where I took off from Grand Canyon West Airport. We just flew through the Grand Canyon and just showed you what the game looks like when the graphics are set to high, not ultra, just high. and we landed at a little radio ground beacon in the middle of nowhere that was just north of Peach Springs. Well, I saw that Peach Springs was on the map in that video, so I wanted to learn a little bit more about Peach Springs, because I was thinking, well, it's random enough, maybe I'll just do a video about Peach Springs if there's something I can find that's interesting about that little town in northwestern Arizona that I've never heard of before. Well, while investigating that town, I found out that there's a lot of really cool little tidbits about that town. Still playing with the controls here. We're going to follow Route 66. I-40 is this road that goes generally straight west. Route 66 kind of curves. It goes generally northwest. I'm just still trying to fight with my trim to get it set the way I want it. I'm a little higher than I want it to be. Before I start talking about Peach Springs, I want to make sure the plane is straight and level before we start talking about that too much. And there's a nice little V right ahead of us. That is the railroad tracks on the left and Route 66 on the right. I'm just going to give it a lot of big major spin on the trim wheel here. This thing is still climbing, man, oh man. Alright, now I can bring it back up a little bit. So there's I mentioned the Hualapai Indian Reservation. This is basically the southern edge of that reservation. When you look to the north towards the Grand Canyon, that's all Hualapai Indian Reservation. Tourism is the biggest part of their economy because they're so close to the Grand Canyon, obviously. So right here along Route 66 west of Seligman, between Seligman and Peach Springs, there's a I'm trying to figure out what to call it. It's like a canyon cavern. Alright. I'm not going that fast. Just still a little higher than I'd like to be. So there's a caverns tourist area up here where you can actually stay in a cavern overnight. What do they call it? The Grand Canyon Caverns Inn. There's a thing called the Grotto. Let's just pull back on the throttle. Let's do that. Maybe that'll make it happy, so it's not beeping at us the whole time. And of course, now I got the throttle back, it's gonna plunge nose into the ground. All right, nice and quiet. So if you visit this area, check out the Grand Canyon Caverns, the inn, and the tours right here along Route 66, west of Seligman. So this town of Peach Springs, the city of Peach Springs is the inspiration for the town Radiator Springs in Cars, the movie. You'll remember that in the movie, Lightning McQueen was racing down here along Route 66, thinking he's headed back towards the interstate. What he finds is a local police that catches him on radar and starts chasing him. And then they go over a little hill, and when they clear the little hill, Lightning sees the town of Radiator Springs. And then that's when he realizes that he's lost and wasn't headed back to the interstate. And then chaos ensues and he meets the townspeople of Radiator Springs. So when the filmmakers were scouting Route 66 for ideas and locations and inspiration for the movie. What they ended up doing was finding a lot of roadside attractions that they used in the movie. Things like the traffic cone hotel, you know, the tower of tires at Luigi's tire shop, things like that they used from all around the Southwest along their travels along Route 66. But the town of Peach Springs was the inspiration for the town of Radiator Springs, and we'll discuss that more when we get up here. Alright, I don't want to be this low. Let's put a little bit more trim. They'll give us some lift. Now we'll mess with the trim a little bit more while we're flying here along Route 66. There's not a lot to see out here. I did see a marker on Google Maps for a historic Route 66 general store. It was kind of funny because it's in the middle of nowhere. I didn't see the actual store on the satellite image, but it is what it is. I'd like to make this trip someday. I haven't ever traveled on Route 66 yet, but I plan to at some point in my retirement. I tried doing this video the other day and I didn't like the quality of it, so that's why I thought I'd do it a second time. When I took off in that video, I took off from this Hualapai airport, which we're going over pretty soon here. See how close we are to it. There it is, L37. That's the Hualapai airport. Or no, 3AZ5, that's the Hualapai airport. This is Grand Canyon Caverns Airport, L37. That's where those that touristy area is for the actual Grand Canyon Caverns and Grotto. And I guess there's a hotel room of some sort. I didn't figure out how to book it, but right here by this Grand Canyon Caverns Airport is where you can book some sort of a stay and sleep in the caverns overnight. That's kind of cool. So we're still a little bit away. When you start seeing the hills in the distance, as opposed to the flat areas back here, when you get to the hills, that's when you know you're getting close to Peach Springs on Route 66. I wonder what it would be like to live out here. Let me know if you like this airplane, guys, as opposed to the Cessna and the Icon that I was flying in the previous video. I kind of like this one because I can fly it slower and lower, and maybe I'm just getting better at the game. Still not good, but better than I was when I was flying those planes. But this plane is a contender for the plane of the future, the one I just keep flying. I'd like to get to know the planes good enough that I can get really good at one of them and be smooth enough to show you my landings as well as my takeoffs. See these hilly areas, that's what I was talking about. I don't know if you'd call these mountains yet, but buttes, plateaus, hills, I think these would all qualify. just keep that VFR map up. As long as it's not in the way too much. Let's just go ahead and track ourselves. And I think I'll just be quiet for a little bit. Let's just enjoy the view. This is historic Route 66. And we're getting ready to pass the Grand Canyon Caverns Airport on our left. And then I'll start talking again when we get up to Peach Springs. The inspiration for Radiator Springs. coming up on Peach Springs here. If you remember in that in the Cars movie, Radiator Springs was basically a long straight stretch where Luigi's tire shop and Flo's gas station and Sarge's surplus shop were all on one straight stretch. And at the end of that straight stretch, there was a fire department where there was a statue of an old car. You'll see that Route 66 here kind of gently curves. It kind of curves to the left to go south when it goes into Peach Springs, and then it kind of curves right to go back west just before it gets to that railroad line going through town. So that long straight stretch in Radiator Springs, I think that was represented by, I think that's inspired by this road up here in Peach Springs called Diamond Creek Road. Diamond Creek Road actually dead ends. Well, no, it doesn't dead end. It kind of just crosses Route 66. And I think the straight stretch of Diamond Creek Road north of Route 66 was the inspiration for that straight stretch in Radiator Springs. Where at the fire department in Radiator Springs it turned to the right. That would be like Diamond Creek Road going south and then turning right onto Route 66. I think that's what they were going for. Now, you'll see here as we make this left turn and kind of go down the hill a little bit into Peach Springs, it's basically a residential area. The Hualapai tribe headquarters is in this, just over this hill. I'll point that building out if I can find it again. Like I said, this isn't my first time flying around Peach Springs in a plane. The first time I got was so convoluted trying to avoid hills and flying up and down and making steep turns, and it was just ridiculous. The video quality wasn't good, so we'll try and do a better job this time. Showing you some of these landmarks for the Hualapai Indians and for the Cars movie that used this town as its inspiration. So, get my map pulled up here. Let's see. So that window right at the bottom of the pilot's, that building right below, the building right there, I'll just point to it. That's the Bureau of Indian Land Resources building. Up here is the pharmacy, that big L-shaped building. I don't know if it's a hospital or a clinic, but Google shows it as being a pharmacy. And then the headquarters for the Hualapai Indian tribe itself is right there. Some interesting buildings in this area. The fire department's right there. This is the police department. Here's the elementary school, Peach Springs. Well, it's not, I don't know if it's an elementary school. It looks like an elementary school to me. That's Peach Springs School right there. And then right here is where I think they used that inspiration for the Cars movie, where it turns right onto Route 66. So the fire station would have been right there, and then that little statue of that old car would have been right there in front of the fire station. I think it's kind of funny that in that Cars movie they used that statue of that old car. I looked it up. In the movie it was labeled, the statue was labeled Stanley, like it was a tribute to a car named Stanley that had passed. So I did a Google search and found out that that car is actually a Stanley. That's the name of the brand of the car. It's a Stanley Motor Cars vehicle that was run by a steam engine. I think it's kind of funny that Stanley Motor Cars run by a steam engine in the movie was right in, they had a statue right in front of the fire department in the middle of the desert. That fire truck in the movie was the regular source of water for the area. You remember he was always watering the plants and wetting down the tire tower and all that kind of stuff. Of course, the Stanley Steamer automobile is right in front of the fire department, where he could have probably gotten a regular supply of water to run his engine. Not to run his engine, but to feed his engine, so to speak. There's a building right here. I don't know what that building is. It's a really cool looking, newer looking building on Google Earth, like the street images, the street view images, but I don't know what it is. It's not labeled. So if anybody knows what this building is right here, the L-shaped one, There's a big center circle entrance, it looks like, and then 2 wings off of it. I don't know what that building is. Someone let me know. This is the Boys and Girls Club of Peach Springs. And then right over here, let's see, this is Diamond Creek Road. This is the Hualapai Lodge. That's another source of the tourism income for the area. Interesting. It looks like it might be the only hotel in the area. And then this little building right there is an old gas station that was built in around 1930. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. If you look at Google Earth images, Google Earth Street View, it just looks like an old, I don't know if it's adobe, but it looks kind of like that style, like that southwestern style with the big curved walls that go up to the roof. It's not in that good a shape. Supposedly there was a grant that was supplied by the Department of Interior, maybe? I forget. Maybe it was... Yeah, it would have to be the Interior. They provided a grant to redo that gas station to make it nicer. Right now it still doesn't look like it's been rehabbed or fixed up at all. But Peach Springs is kind of known for that. That building is special in Peach Springs. And it's a shame that it's sitting there kind of old and dusty. If I was the mayor of Peach Springs, I would put a tower of not a tower. I would display an old Stanley steamer on a plinth right there on that corner next to the building that's on the National Register of Historic Places. And, you know, advertise that you've got a tie-in to the Cars movie. If tourism is going to be your industry of choice, then why not play to it? You've got your old building that's on the historic list. You've got your statue of a Stanley steamer to match the movie Cars. And then you've got your big lodge right next door. I think that'd be kind of cool to see. I don't know, maybe they shun the Cars tie-in to this town because I don't really see anything in the town that mentions the Cars movie. Maybe they don't like that distinction, but no, it's there. I don't think it's that bad. Maybe they don't like it. Maybe that's why they don't advertise the Cars tie-in as much as maybe I think they should, but I don't know. Whatever. If you're from Peach Springs, give me a shout out in the comments. Let me know. Is there anything I missed in your small town? The Hualapai Indians, there's only 3,000, I think it was, registered Hualapai Indians, and I want to say 1,300 of them live in this area. They comprise over 95, it was over 90% of the population. And, you know, shout out, say hi. You get to see your little town on my YouTube channel. Did I miss anything? There's a Hualapai Market right there in the corner, and then the trading post is a couple of doors down. Other than that, that's really all I learned about Peach Springs. It's a fascinating town. I really want to visit it now. Just learning what I've learned to create this video. But I think it's pretty fascinating. The tie-in with the Hualapai Indians. You know, it's really close to the Grand Canyon. And then you've got the Pixar Cars movie tie-in also. A lot of interesting things about this town that I never knew before a week ago. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And I don't know, maybe someday I'll get to visit Peach Springs and do a tour and take a picture and show you all that I actually made it. Isn't this a beautiful part of the country? My goodness. You know, the Cars movie, they made a big deal about the landscape looking like the front end of old Kirby, you know, pre-war cars. I see where they get that from now. With all these undulating, rolling hills, I can see it being the hood and the fenders of a front of a car. It's pretty cool. So this is Route 66 right here. This is Diamond Creek Road right here. And this little road right here looks like, it must be Arizona State Route 19. It might be County Road 19. It's labeled 19 on the maps. But this little road goes back to that Grand Canyon Caverns area. And this is the railroad that goes in between Route 66 and I-40 over there in Seligman. This is where, like, this is the same railroad that Lightning had his interaction and race past the at-grade crossing. Man, I really got to get to this part of the country and visit. It's beautiful. If you would, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see where I go next. I think I'm gonna keep doing small towns like this, just flying around small towns, talking about what I've learned, and maybe we'll find some interesting places to talk about and look at together. So come back and visit my channel and see where I go to next. We'll see you next time. Bye.